ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ आप्यायन्तु ममाङ्गानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुश्रोत्रमथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्म उपनिषदं माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्याम् मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत् अनिराकरणमस्त्वनिराकरणं मे अस्तु। तदात्मनि निरते यौपनिषत्सु धर्मास्ते मयि सन्तु ते मयि सन्तु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ओमित्येतदक्षरमुद्गीतमुपासीत ओमिति ह्युद्गायते तस्योपव्याख्यानम्। Page 326, passage 1. यदा वै विजानाति अथ सत्यं वदति न अविजानन् सत्यं वदति विजानन्नेव सत्यं वदति। विज्ञानं त्वेव विजिज्ञासितव्यमिति विज्ञानं भगवो विजिज्ञासे इति। यदा वै विजानाति अथ सत्यं वदति। Only when one knows the truth, then alone one speaks the truth. Here, knowing is becoming one with it. So far, there was a whole series of discovering oneness, beginning from Nama all the way up to Prana. So when he knows himself as Prana, Amji, Antaryami, self of all, then he speaks as Prana. Naturally, he transcends everything which is inferior to Prana. But even Prana, the cosmic air, the cosmic vital air, Hiranyagarbha also is not the ultimate reality, Saguna Brahma. Ultimate reality is Satyam, Paramarthikam Satyam, absolute truth. Prana also is subject to certain amount of change or modification. So that which is free from all change, all modification is Satyam, which is ever the same at all times, at all places and all conditions, that which remains the same, which is infallible, which is trustworthy, which is most reliable, which is what basically the human heart is searching for. That is Satyam. Vijanati, when that Satyam, Paramarthika Satyam, the absolute reality, when that is known as the self, Ata Satyam Vadati, then he speaks as that Satyam. Then whatever he speaks is Satyam. Whatever he speaks is himself. But since now he is identified with Satyam, which transcends all duality, all Amritam, all falsehood, therefore, whatever he speaks is Satyam, truth. Na Vijanan Satyam Vadati. One cannot be speaking truth without knowing the truth of Brahman as one's own self. Because one speaks whatever one is. Whatever one's perception of oneself is, that's what one speaks. So unless my perception is I am Brahman, until then whatever I speak is going to be certainly other than Brahman. Na Vijanan Satyam Vadati. Even though I may be devoted to speaking truth, I may be speaking truth. As far as the Vyavaharikam Satyam is concerned, as far as the truth in the relative sense is concerned, I may be speaking truth. But there cannot be absolute truth in the Vyavahara. In Vyavahara meaning, in our day-to-day life, whatever you speak can be very close to truth but can never be absolute truth. Because nothing in the world is absolute. Everything is relative. That being the case, only when a person transcends his Vyavahara and sees oneself very adhishthanam, substratum of all that Vyavahara, then alone one speaks the truth in the true sense of the word. Vijananeva Satyam Vadati. One does not speak truth without knowing it. So knowing the truth, one speaks truth. But that Vijnanam, that knowledge has to be gained. Vijnanam tve vijignasadvyamiti. Hey Narada, you must speak to know that knowledge. Vijnanam bhago vijignaseti. O Venerable Sir, vijignase, I desire to know specifically Vijnanam, that knowledge. So Bhashyakara says, Yada vai satyam paramatah vijanati idam paramatah satyameti. One sees this is satyam in the absolute sense. Tataha anrutam vikarajatam vachanambram hitva. Naturally, when this person is identified with the absolute truth, he gives up all that is relative, vacharambanam, anutam, which is anutam false or mithya or relatively real. Vacharambanam, which has reality not much more than the word. Vikarajatam, everything that is created. So whatever is created is perishable. Vikara is changing and therefore subject to modification. Hitva, meaning that he no more identifies with what is not Satyam. He sees Anutam, the false or Mithya as Mithya. Hitva means giving up, that means that transcending or not identifying with it. Sarvavikara sadeva ekam satyamiti. How does he know? Sarvavikara. So that is in and through all the changes or modifications. Meaning that nothing is separate from Satyam. All the vikara, the modification, mithya, is never apart from Satyam. Because Satyam is Sat, is existence, so that which imparts the Satta and Sphurti to everything. That were Sarvavikara Avastham, so that which obtains in all the states of vikara modification, creation, sustenance, dissolution, waking, dream, deep sleep, past, present, future. Sadeva Ekam Satyam. In and through all these changes and modifications, Ekam, only one reality is Sat or existence. Iti Vijanati. So when he sees that, Tadeva Athavadati, then he alone speaks that. So what he sees as a self is what he speaks. Yad Vadati. Whatever he speaks, he only speaks that Sat or existence, which is the truth, substratum, the sustaining factor of all that is mithya or vikaram. Then as we said last time, Bhashyakara raises here a question to clarify the meaning of word Satyam, which is used in the scriptures, both in the sense of absolute truth as well as the relative truth. The word Satyam is used in both the sense. Elsewhere, in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, the word Satyam is used in a relative sense. So to clarify that, Bhashyakara raises a question here. Nanu vikaropi satyameva. Or a person who believes in Bheda Bhedavada, Bheda Bhedamata Alambanena Shutyan. So before that, Narendra Puriyam Tippanam said, Tattva Vicharena Sata Anyat Asaduchyade. Tattva Vicharena, from vichara or deliberation upon tattvam of the truth, Sata Anyat Asaduchyade. What is Asat? Asat is not the absence of Sat, but Sata Anyat, that which is other than Sat. So Asat, Sat and Asat. Na Sato Vidyate Bhavaha, Na Bhavo Vidyate Satah. Na Sato Vidyate Bhavaha, Asataha Bhavaha Na Vidyate. There also Lord Krishna used the word Asat in the sense of not that it does not exist, that which is different from Sat. Nrishungad Visham Chaidam. It is like the, of course, then when you say Nrisunga is absolute non-existence. So, Anugata Ekasmat Sadrupat Anyachet Asadeva Hoitum Arhati. Whatever is different from Anugatat Ekasmat Sadrupa, just as in a heap of ornaments, the gold is Anugatam, the gold is that which pervades all the ornaments. The thought of gold always remains in the thought of ornament. Ekarupat, whereas the ornaments keep on changing in the form and name, that gold is ever the same. Thus in every thought of the ornament, the thought of gold is always involved or is always included. Anyachet asadeva hoitum arhati. So anything other than gold is to be non-gold, which is naam and name and form, which is asat. In this case, san ghataha, san pataha, san hasti. So anugatat, sadrupat, the sad is what? Anugatam. That which informs all the names and forms. Ekadrupa, the hasti, ghata, pata, the name and form, they change, but in all those changes, that it does not change. Sun, sun, sun. The pot is, the cloth is, the elephant is. Anyached asayeva bhavitum arhati. If anything is different from that Sat, which is the thread that informs everything, which pervades all the names and forms, anything other than that Sat should be a Sat. Ananyaschetaris yadasti tasanmatram Brahma. Whatever is not different from Sat is Sat and Brahma. Whatever is different from Sat is a Sat. Iti evam rupena yada vijanati. So everything other than Sat, which is the vikara, modification, name and form, is a Sat, is mithya, which is not there in the ultimate sense. Tada anudrishtim hitva. Then he gives the anudrishti. So far his drishti of perception was false, because he was giving reality to that which is not real in absolute sense. So hitva, giving up. Yad vadati tas satyam brahmaya vadati. So then whatever he speaks now is nothing but satyam brahma. Uktam hi yatra yatra gata drishti yatra yatra gatam manah tatta tatra shivam shantam pashyante veda paragaha iti. Uktam hi, so this is said. Yatra yatra gata drishti, wherever my sight goes, yatra yatra gatam manah, where the sight goes, that's where the mind goes. Or wherever sight goes in terms of what is perceptible, where the mind goes in terms of what is inferable, etc. Tatra tatra shivam shantam pashyante veda paragaha. There. What do they see? Veda paragaha. So those who have gone beyond, gone through the Vedas, meaning those who have known, understood the tatparya of the Vedas. The purport of the Vedas is what ekameva dvitiyam, that Brahman which is one without a second. Those who know that, they see only Shantam, Shivam Shantam Pashyante. They see Shivam, the auspicious, Shantam, the silent, the peaceful. Then this objection that you just read, Nanu, is Bheda Bhed Matavalambanena Shrutyantara Shankate. Bheda, Abheda. So Bheda also is truth and Abheda also is truth. That is Bheda Abheda Mata. At some point the truth is Abhinnam. Before creation, when it is in its own state, then it is truth, Abhinnam. When then it manifests the universe, then this is the truth also which is Bhinnam. So cause also is real, effect also is real. So therefore, that person who wants to, that maybe Bhaskara or whatever, wants to say that Prana also is Satyam, because the Shruti says, and Brahman also is Satyam. Nanu vikarobi satyameva nam rupe satyam tabhyam ayam prana channa. See, Upanishad says, Brihadanyaka, nam rupe satyam, the name and form are real. The five elements of which names and forms are created are real. Tabhyam ayam prana channa. This gross body, Channa. So by the gross body, by the name and form, is concealed the prana, the subtle body. So there, the name and form, the gross, the five elements also are called Satyam. Understand? Then further, prana vai Satyam, tesham esha Satyamidi. Prana vai Satyam. All the organs are real prana. All the prana, the vital air are real. Tesham esha Satyam. Of them, this Paramatma is Satyam. So if you look at the page 327, line 26, तेषां प्राणानाम् एषः प्रकृतः नेति नेति निर्दिष्टात्मा अधिष्ठानरूपेण सत्ता प्रदत्वात् सत्यमिति श्रुत्यर्थः. So what that statement Shruti means is prana vai satyam, that pranas are truth. Tesham esha satyam, tesham of them, tesham prananam, of those pranas, esha this one. What this one? Prakrutaha. So that which is under discussion. Which one is that? Neti neti. So that which is under discussion, which is indicated by neti neti, not this, nirvishesha. So prakrutaha neti neti nirdishta atma. So that atma is satyam. How? Adhisthana rupena satta pradatvat. Because the pranas, because the sense organs, because the vitals, because the subtle body. That may be said to be satyam with reference to gross body. But even pranas also derive their satta or existence from something else. So that alone can be called satyam, which does not depend upon anything else for its reality, for its existence. Everything depends upon something else for its existence, including prana, the vital as Saguna Brahma. So adhisthana rupena satta pradatvat, just as the rope imparts satta, the existence of snakes also, the sat or existence imparts existence to prana and everything else, beginning from nama up to prana. Therefore, that is satyam iti shrutyartha. So say the tika, vikarasya paramartha satyatvam na shrutyantarena uktam. Even though Brihadaranyaka Upanishad uses the word satyam for prana or for nama rupa, this is what vikara. Nama rupa also is vikara, prana also is vikara, and if it is literal meaning, looks like the Upanishad is saying that this vikara also is satyam. So Nama Rupa is Satyam, it said that Nama Rupa, that is Vikara. Prana is Satyam, Prana also is Vikara. So even when the Upanishad says that Nama Rupa and Prana are Satyam, that Satyam is not meant in the primary sense. Vikarasya Paramartha Satyatvam na Shrutyantarena Uktam. That Brihadaranyaka does not mean that this prana or nama rupa are satyam or truth in the absolute sense. Kintu indriyajanya vijnana vishayatvat vyavaharikam tasya satyatam uktam. But because this universe can be perceived, so the universe is perceived. All the names and forms are the subject matter of sense organs, meaning we perceive the names and forms through our senses. We infer or perceive the prana, mind, etc. also. So, vyavaharikam satyatvam. So, Shruti also respects that. Even though it says neti neti, not this, but the Upanishad also respects the creation. That also it is reality in terms of its being the object of perception. It has usefulness in the life. It serves the purpose. Even though purpose itself is mithya, but still. So to that extent, even the universe of names and forms, or gross and subtle bodies also, is respected as satyam, as truth. We should not take that word satyam to mean paramarthikam satyam, not absolute reality, only relative reality. Satya shabdita bhuta panchaga karyatvacha satyatvam vikarasya uktam. So what satya there also is used in two sense. One is vyavaharikam satyam, prana vai satyam. Tesham Esha Satyam. The pranas are real and Paramatma is the reality of the real. Prana is Vyavaharika Satyam. Nama Rupe Satyam, the name and form are Satyam. That is because they are made of the 5 elements. And as we said last time, Bhuta Panchaka, the 5 elements also are called Satyam. Satyat Tyacha Bhavata. Sat and Tyat become Satyam. Sat is that which is tangible. The 3 elements, earth, water and fire, are called Sat in one sense. In the other 2 elements which are not tangible, not perceptible to eyes, the air and the space are called Tyat. The Sat and Tyat become Satyam. So, those 2 passages which are quoted, in one place, Nama Rupe Satyam, there the word Satyam is used as under 5 elements. Pranavai Satyam, there the word Satyam is used in sense of Vyavaharikam Satyam. Iti Pariharti. So Bhashyakara replies, or as Anandagiri says on page 326, line 19-20, Kim Bruhadaranyaka Shrutya Vikarasya Satyatmuktam iti etavan matram uchyate kim va paramadha satyatvam vikalpya. So when you say Vikaropi Satyam, Vikara also is Satyam. What makes you say that? When the Purvapakshi says that look, Bruhadaranyaka Upanishad says that Vikara modification also is Satyam. Kim Bruhadaranyaka Shrutya Vika Satya Utvam. Because Bruhadaranyaka Upanishad there use the word Satyam for Nama Rupa or Prana, is that what you mean? Or Paramartha, or you mean that Bruhadaranyaka means to say that the Nama Rupa and Prana are Satyam or truth in the absolute sense? What do you mean? Do you want to understand the meaning of Satya? Or do you mean that Satyam there means Paramarthikam Satyam, absolute reality? Vikalpya Adyamangi Karod. Yes, the Upanishad does use the word Satyam, we'll accept. But we have to understand what the meaning of that word Satyam is. So Bhashyakara says, page 326, line number 6, Satyam Uktam Satyatvam Shrutyantare Vikarasya. Satyam, this is half acceptance. Shrutyantare Vikarasya Satyatvam Uktam. You're right. Shrutyantare, in another Shruti passage, meaning in the Bruhadaranyaka Upanishad, Vikarasya Satyatvam Uktam, we have to accept. Nama Rupe Satyam, Nama Rupa is Vikara. Prana Vai Satyam, Prana also is Vikara. So we accept that Bruhadaranyaka Upanishad does describe them as Satyam. But then if by Satyam you mean that Bruhadaranyaka means that the Nama Rupa or Prana are absolute reality, that is not so. So, Kima Paramadha Satyatvam is not Paramadha Satyatvam. Dvitiyam Dushayati Nathu iti Bhashyakara says. Nathu Paramartha Peksha Muktam. But that word Satya is not Paramartha Peksha. Not from the standpoint of Paramartha or absolute reality, but Satya is not Paramarthikam Satyam. Says Anandagiri, Bheda Bhedayoho Virodhat Ekopadau Ayogat Vikarasya cha Rajju Sarvavat Mithyatva Anumanat Atyanta Badhya Viprayana Satyatvam Shutyantarayana Eva Uktam Ityartha. Bheda Bhedayoho Virodhat. They say Brahman is Bheda Bhedam. Brahman is one as well as many. In the causal state, Brahman is one, like the ocean. In the effect state, like the waves, it is many. Bheda bhedeho virodhat. How can Bheda and Abheda, division and non-division, duality and non-duality, how can they oppose to each other? Where one is, other cannot be. That's called mutual exclusion. So Bheda and Abheda mutually exclude each other, and therefore they cannot be simultaneously in one locus. Like light and darkness are mutually exclusive, therefore they cannot remain in one locus at the same time. एक उपादु अयोगात, उपाधि this therefore एक अधिकरणे अयोगात, they cannot be in one locus simultaneously. Meaning if Brahman is abhinnam, is non-divided, is non-dual, then division or duality cannot exist in Brahman, because the non-dual transcends duality. Vikarasya cha rajju sarvat mithyata anumanat. Vikara, anything that is modification is mithya. Because what is modification? That which is subject to change, which never remains the same even for a moment. So that which is changing cannot be real, because change must necessarily depend upon something that does not change for its existence. Then the rope now appears to be a snake, to somebody appears to be a garland, to somebody it appears to be a stick. All of these things are changes, they cannot exist unless there is a common substratum informing them. Therefore, Rajju Sarvat Mithyat Anumanat. Anything that is change, modification is mithya, like Rajju Sarpa. Just as the snake is the superimposition upon rope, so also the ornament is superimposition upon gold. So every change is superimposition. That's what Vedanta teaches. Every creation or every change is a superimposition upon that which does not change, just as the pot is a superimposition upon clay. Like the snake is the superimposition upon rope, and so also the pot is a superimposition upon clay. And therefore, a pot is reality no more than rope snake. So we have no difficulty in understanding rope snake as mithya. But every vikara is like that only. Every vikara, every modification is a superimposition. Because take away the clay from this pot and no pot, no name and form remain. Take away the rope, then no snake remains. So also take away the clay, no name and form remain. Therefore, the reality of pot is not different from the reality of snake. This is what Vedanta, Ganagola Vedanta says, अत्यंत बाध्यत्व अभिप्रायण सत्यत्वम श्रुत्यंतरेण उक्तम. अबाध्यत्व अभिप्रायण अत्यंत अबाध्यत्व अभिप्रायण सत्यत्वम श्रुत्यंतरेण उक्तम इत्यर्थः. Therefore, even that other Shruti also means Satyam is that Atyantam Abadhyam, which can never be negated under any circumstances. Katham tari pranadishu satyatvam muktam. So if you say that even other Shruti also use the word Satya only in the absolute sense, then why does the Shruti says Prana is Satyam, Nama Rupa is Satyam? Ita ashankya angikaram sphorayati. Satyamuktam, that angikara was there, Bhashyakara clarifies that yes, the other Shruti does say that Nama Rupa is Satyam. The Shruti does say prana are satyam. But in what sense do they say? So Bhashyakara explains kim tarhi. Kim tarhi indriya vishayatvapeksam satya tyachayate satyam satyam ityuktam. Kim tarhi? In what sense the word satyam is used there? Indriya vishayatvapeksam. Indriya Vishayatva Apeksham, not Paramartha Apeksham. But Satyam is not used from the standpoint of Paramartha or absolute reality. Indriya Vishayatva Apeksham. That Nama Rupa are Indriya Vishaya. They are the Vishaya, the objects of sense objects, so they are the objects of sense perception. In that sense, the word Satyam is used there. So that's what the Tika on the line 27 said there. Vikarasya Paramar Satyatvam na Shrutyantarena Uktam. The other Shruti doesn't say that Vikara is real. Kintu Indrijanya Vijnana Vishayatvat Vyavaharikam Tasya Satyatvam Uktam, because Vikara, name and form, the universe is Indriya Vijnana Vishayatvat, because the universe of names and Vishaya is object of knowledge which is created by sense organs. So since the universe is object of knowledge of sense organs, that is called Vyavaharikam Satyam. So Vedanta accepts Paramarthikam Satyam and Vyavaharikam Satyam, and also Pratibhasikam Satyam, meaning the subjective reality such as dream, such as rope snake. But here, when all vikara is equal to Rajju Sarva, so Vyavaharikam Mithya and Vyavaharikam and Pratibhasikam both are lumped in together. What actually is a Vyavaharika Satya? The rope snake is Pratibhasikam Satyam. But equating pot also with rope snake, both of them are lumped together, you know. Then says Tika Satya Shabdita Bhuta Panchaga Karyatvacha Satyatvam Vikarasya Uktam, because even 5 elements also are called Satya, Sat and Tyat. And therefore, since the universe is the product of the 5 elements, we are Satyam in one sense. The 5 elements are called Satyam, Sat and Tyat. So since the name and form are product of 5 elements, even pranas also are the product of 5 elements. So they being the effect of these 5 elements. 5 elements are called Satyam in one sense, and name, form and prana being the effects of those 5 elements, therefore they are also called Satyam. Say Tika again, Indriya Vishaya Avishayatva Apeksham. So Bhashya is Indriya Vishayatva Apeksham. The Patha can be Indriya Vishaya Avishayatva Apeksham. Iti Patha. The Indriya Vishaya, the 3 elements, the Indriya means they are only eyes. So the earth, water and fire are Indriya Vishaya. And Vayu and Akasha Avishaya. To Apeksham Patha be Indriyam Vishaya Ashraya Janakam Yasyedi Tajjanya Jnanameva Uktam. There are also Indriya the Ashraya or the locus of that knowledge, so it's the same thing actually. Sat Shabdena Indriya Vishayatvat Murtatvacha Rupavad Bhutatrayam Uktam. So by verse Sat, is meant the three elements because Indriya Vishayatvat Murtatvat Rupavat Bhutatrayam. The three elements which possess form or color. Earth, water and fire, all of them possess form or color, and therefore they are called Sat. Tyat Shabdena Parokshvachana. Tyat means that, means Paroksha. Paroksha means which is away from sense perception. Tad Viparitam Bhutadvaya Muktam. Only air and the space which do not have form, so they are called Tyat. Tadukte Prayojanamaha. Okay, then. So Vashyakara said, Indriya Vishayatva Apeksham Satyatatcheti Satyam iti Yuktam. Okay, then. Anandagiri also did the same thing. Indriya Janita Sadbuddhi Vishayatva Apeksham Bhutatrayam Sayuchyate. Okay, Tyat. तथा भूत पंचकम सत्य त्यच्चैति व्युत्पाद्य सत्यमिति यथा उक्तं तथा तद्बीज भूतयोः नाम रूपयोः तदात्मकत्वाच्च प्राणानां सत्यत्वं व्यावहारिकम् इष्टमित्यर्थः. So just as bhut panchakam, the five elements, they are sat and tyat, and therefore they are called satya in that sense. Vyutpadya, Vyutpatti, word Satya is explained this way. It's a Nirukta method, taking the letters. So Satya, so you can even add one ta there. Sat and Tyat, then Takar also. Sat, Tyat is Satya. Anyway, so with that Vyutpatti, it means five elements. Then, if that five elements are Satyam, then whatever is created from five elements also can be called Satyam. Sattat bija bhutayoho nam rupayoho. The name and form are all created from five elements. Bija, the cause is five elements. Tadatmakatvacha pranam, and prana also are product of five elements that were the nam rupa and prana. Both of them also are called Satyam. Vyavaharikam ishtam. That is Vyavaharikam Satyam. Then itasya pranadishu mithya bhuteshu abhi satya shruti aviruddha. Bhashyakara says there is an important reason also. That even though Nama, Rupa and Prana are not Satyam, they are Mithya. And still the Shruti uses the word Satyam with a purpose in mind. So, for this further reason also, the use of the word Satyam for Nama, Rupa and Prana is quite alright. Aviruddham, it is not wrong, or it is quite in keeping with what the Shruti wants to communicate. Tadvarena. So says Bhashya, Tadvarena cha Paramatha Satyasya Upalabdhihi Vyakshita iti. Tadvarena cha. So then this Vyavaharikam Satyam, the universe which is relatively real, becomes Dvara, becomes a gateway, becomes a means for leading us to the Paramarthikam Satyam. So there were Dve Vidye Veditavye iti hasmacha Brahma Vedo Vadanti Paracheva Aparacha. Paravidya and Aparavidya. Aparavidya, the knowledge of this Vyavahara. Paravidya, the knowledge of Brahman. So why should you know Vyavahara? Because Vyavahara can become the gateway for the knowledge of Brahman or Ishvara. In many ways. In many ways. By creating Vairagya, by recognizing the Mithyatvam of the Vyavahara. So therefore, by negating that, that's how you know the Adhishthanam, the absolute. It explains here. Says Anandagiri, Pranadina Vyavaharika Satyatva anuvada dvarena. That prana and nama rupa, they are vyavaharika satya, they have the relative reality, useful reality. The thing is, Brahman is never useful. Absolute reality is never useful. Therefore, in one sense, whatever is useful also can be called true, real. Because so far our life only is limited to that. Usefulness is very important to us. When we realize that usefulness itself is mithya, that something is useful to me. Why is it useful to me? Because it creates comfort in me. Because it makes me happy, makes me comfortable. That's what I call useful. Meaning that I am still looking at something else for comfort and happiness, which itself is mithya. So one whose nature is happiness is still looking at something else for happiness or comfort. Therefore, the idea of usefulness itself arises from ignorance. If I knew that happiness I am, then nothing else remains the source of happiness anyway. So therefore the usefulness, everything loses usefulness in that sense. So as long as things appear to be useful, so long there is ignorance. And so, but until then, therefore what is useful also can be called real, because that is, usefulness is what is important to me in the realm of ignorance. So until then, that can be called satyam. Pranadina vyavaharika satyatva anuvada dvarena adhyaropa apavada nyayena. Then you employ the adhyaropa apavada nyaya, the rule of adhyaropa, superimposition, apavada, negation. Then you find that all the name and form, prana, all of these are changing. They cannot be real. So when you negate that, then you realize that they are on adhyaropa, superimposition. That's how they are negated. So they lead you to the adhishthanam, which is paramathikam satyam. Paramartha satyasya brahmana avagati vivakshita iti kritva. See, as I said, Upanishad employs different prakriyas, different methods for leading us to the knowledge of Brahman or Satyam. So this is one method, Adhyaropa and Apavada, superimposition and negation. So that's a method that the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, in the passages quoted earlier, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad employs the method of Adhyaropa and Apavada to lead us to the knowledge of Adhisthana or substratum. Teshu api satyatva shruti aviruddha. Because this vyavaharika satyam leads you to absolute satyam. So therefore, this name and form and prana become the means of knowledge of satyam. In that sense, they are called satyam. So sometimes the means also are called by the same name as the end. Therefore, Delhi is the destination. But the train also is called Delhi Mail, because the mail, which is the train, which is a means of enabling you to reach Delhi, also is called by the same name. Dharma. The word dharma can mean Ishvara, Brahman. That which sustains everything, upholds everything. But then the way of life leading to that knowledge, truth also is called dharma. So similarly, satyam in true sense means only absolute reality. But this universe of name and form also, since through the method of Adhyaropa leads you to knowledge of that truth, therefore it also can be called satyam. So, satyatva shruti aviruddha. Either the Shruti used the word Satyam for stand for Sat and Tyat, or the Vyavaharika Satyam, or because it is a means of Paramathikam Satyam. Three reasons are given. Why the word why the Upanishad, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, use the word Satyam for Nam, Rupa and Prana is number one, that it is Sat and Tyat, which are five elements and products of five elements. Number two, Vyavaharikam Satyam, because it is useful. And number three, because it becomes a means of leading us to the knowledge of the Paramathikam Satyam or absolute reality. So Satyatva Shruti, we have to justify everything. You can't say that is wrong, they don't know what they are talking. So you cannot say that this Brihadaranyaka doesn't know what it is talking. You can't say that. Otherwise you are dismissing yourself. Sometimes people don't know. They dismiss each other, they are dismissing themselves, So, similarly, we have to in fact explain everything, validate everything. So why does the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad use the word Satyam there? So the reasons are given here. Teshu api Satyatva Shruti aviruddha. Therefore, for name and form and prana, if the Brihadaranyaka says that Satyam, aviruddha, it is not contradictory to this Satyam which is absolute. So what Satyam here is an absolute sense, and that Satyam does not contradict this. It supports this. That's all. Siddhanagi, yathoktaha vivakshitaha Brihadaranyaka Shododhyatra Gamakam Aha. But that is your interpretation. Yathoktaha vivakshitaha. That Brihadaranyaka Upanishad intends to convey that meaning. How do you say that? Ityatra gamakamaha. What enables you to see that? Gamakam means what leads you to that understanding. Gamakam jnapakam. What makes you understand that this is what Brihadaranyaka means? So pranavayati. Or says line 31, Tadvaranaire tatha vikshayam Shruti Pramanamaha. So Shruti Pramana is stated, Prana Bhashyakara says, Prana vai satyam tesham esha satyam iti cha uktam. So not only Namarupe satyam, but Upanishad also says, Prana vai satyam tesham esha satyam. Prana satyam. Esha, this Paramathika Brahman is the Satya of the Prana. Meaning that Prana is a means of the knowledge of Esha or the Paramathika Satya. Again, Anandagiri says, Nanu Shrutyantare Vikarasyapi Vyavaharikam Satyatvam Ishtam. Okay. So in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, the Vikarasyapi Vyavaharikam Satyatvam Ishtam. When Vikara also is called Vyavaharika Satyam or the relative reality. Prakruti Tunanta Dishyate. But here, the Upanishad says only Satyam is Paramathikam Satyam. So there in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, the Vyavahara also is accorded some Satyatvam reality, but that's not the case here in this context. Bhumnaheva Satyatva Angikarat. Later on we say that Yo vai Bhuma Tat Satyam Tat Sukham. So what is Bhuman alone is Sukham, that alone is Satyam. So here in this Chandogya, but Satyam is only reserved for absolute reality. In Brihadaranyaka it may be for relative reality also, but that is not the case here. Tathacha viroda tadavasthyam iti. Atah. There was a virodha. That Brihadaranyaka uses the word Satyam in the relative sense, and Chandogya uses the word Satyam in the absolute sense. Therefore, the word Satyam is used in different sense, that virodha or contradiction still remains. Or again, the other Tikakara says, so prananam satyatvam adhisthana satyatva adhinamidi karyaga satvena adhisthana satya jnayati shrutyaktamya. That the Nam Rupa possessed as Satyam belongs to the absolute Satyam. Nanu yeh tathavida vikaras satyatpasya nishede tad virodha. But here, Chandogya in fact dismisses that vikara as Satyam. Then is it not contradicting? Is not Chandogya dismissing what Brihadaranyaka says? Brihadaranyaka says that Vyavahara also is Satyam, Nam Rupa also is Satyam. And this one here negates everything. So is not Chandogya negating what Brihadaranyaka says? In that sense, isn't there a contradiction between the two? So Bhashyakara says, Ihape tadishtameva. Here also, in Chandogya also, the Nama, Rupa and Prana can retain their Vyavarika Satyatvam. So calling Brahman as Satyam is not opposed to calling the world also as Satyam. Brahman is absolute reality, is not opposed to calling Jagat as relative reality, because Jagat is a product of Brahman. The relative reality is Brahman is absolute reality. Therefore, absolute reality is not opposed to relative reality. Absolute Satyam is not opposed to relative or Vyavaharikam Satyam. Ihapi tadishtameva. Here also, that this world of name and form and prana has Vyavarika Satyam is acceptable here also. It is desirable here also. Because they again become the means of knowledge of Satyam. So just as in Brihadaranyaka, the Vyavaharika or relative reality became a means of the absolute reality by Adhyarop Apavada. Here in a different way, here in Chandogya in a different way, the prana and nam began from nam up to prana, So therefore nam, rupa and prana. That they are also Satyam, Vyavaharika Satyam, also leads to this one in a different way. So because sage Narada thought that that is Satyam, so therefore that conclusion of Narada has to be then deviated from that, has to be taken, has to be removed from that notion. So that way, that prana is Satyam also helps us the knowledge of Satyam in a different way here. So yahapi tathavidam satyatvam na nishidyate. Here also that prana Vyavaharika Satyam is not negated. So there it was useful for knowledge of Satyam. Here also it is useful for knowledge of Satyam in a different way. Says Anandagiri, yadi pranasyapi vyavahartah satyatvam upagatam kim tarhi Sanat Kumarasya vivakshitam iti asankyaha. Yadi pranasyapi vyavahartah satyatvam upagatam. If prana also enjoy the Vyavaharika Satyatvam, then what is the intention of Sanat Kumara here? There the intention was by Adhyaropa Apavada that became means of the knowledge of Satyam. So in what sense does Sanat Kumara here accept the Satyatvam of the prana? In what sense? For what purpose? So here the Bhashyakara says, Ihato prana vishayat paramatha satya vijnana abhimanat vyuktapya nardam yat sadeva satyam paramathatah bhumakhyam tad vijñāpayishyāmi ityeshah. विशेषतः विवक्षितः अर्थः. यह तो here it is somewhat different. प्राण विषयात् परमार्थ सत्य विज्ञान अभिमानात् व्युत्थाप्य. Since when Sanat Kumara said that अतिवादी भवति, so evam vijanan अतिवादी भवति, that knowing prana is the atma, one becomes ativadi. And then Narada did not ask, is there anything superior to prana? Meaning that sage Narada concluded that prana is satyam, because jagataha prana atmaham, that brahmadi stama paryantah, the jagat beginning from Brahma all the way up to a lamp post, or all the way up to a blade of grass, I am the prana which is the atma of that I am. So that's all I have to know. So then Narada was satisfied. So therefore, Narada is satisfied thinking that Vyavaharikam Satyam is Paramarthikam Satyam. So since Narada did not ask the question, he thought that prana is the absolute Satyam. In fact, prana is only Vyavaharikam Satyam. But Narada concludes it to be absolute Satyam. Therefore, Paramarth Satya Vijnana Abhimanat. Sage Narada had the notion that prana is Paramarthikam Satyam, absolute reality. Abhimanat, from that notion, Vyuthapya, lifting him up, raising or turning him away. Turning, says Narada, away from this false conclusion that prana is absolute Satyam. Naradam yat sadeva Satyam Paramata Bhumakyam. So here purpose is different. That Sanat Kumara wants to turn Narada away from his conclusion that prana is Satyam. Then Narada will say, then what is Satyam? Then I will tell you what Satyam is. Yat Sadeva Satyam, that existence alone is Satyam, Paramatata Bhumakyam. So that which is called Bhuma here, Bhuman, which is absolute reality, which was Sat or existence in the earlier chapter. Tad Vijñāpayishāmi, I'll make Narada see that existence of Bhuman is Satyam. So Narada has concluded that prana is Satyam. I will turn him away from that conclusion and make him see that Bhuman is Satyam. So that is the purpose of the prana being Satyam, that purpose is served here. That is the purpose of Adhyaropavada Nyaya, by that the absolute Satyam will be known. Hereby turning away from this notion, then I will make him see the nature of truth as it is. So it is Eshaha Visheshataha Vivakshitaha Arthaha. So in this case, that prana is also called Satyam so far, is to turn Narada away and make him see the truth of the absolute reality. So that is the intention here. Or look at the other tika in the line 33. Katham tari eshetu vai ativadati yat satyanideti tu shabdena purvailakshanyam satyasya vadata purvasya pranaye satyatva abhav pratitihi. Here it is very clear that one who knows Satyam alone is a real Ativadi. Meaning that one who takes prana as Satyam is not Ativadi. And therefore, so prana is not Satyam is very clearly stated here. Anyatha vailakshanya siddhe. So when absolute, the person knowing absolute Satyam is called Ativadi, the other fellow who knows prana and Ativadi is not real Ativadi, so therefore prana is not real Satyam. So prana is said here to be not Satyam and Bhuman is said to be Satyam. So here prana is declared as Satyam. Otherwise, what's the difference between prana Satyam and Bhuman Satyam? So Vailakshana iti ashankya yasatya shabdena पूर्ववैलक्षण्यं सत्यस्य वदता परमासत्यवाचिना नारदस्य परमासत्यभ्रमं प्राणेषु निराकर्तुं here Narada, who so iti tu shabdena, here satya shabdena, paramasatyavachana, even satya means paramasatyam, Naradasya paramasatyadharmam pranadeshu nirakartum, that Narada thought that prana etc. also is paramasatyam, that Brahma notion has to be removed. Tathavidam satyasya sapurvasya nastiti uchyate. So the Purva Prana is not absolute reality, not that it doesn't have Vyavaharika Satyatva also. That is what is meant here. Okay, we'll continue tomorrow. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krito Vande Bhagavanto Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.